getting a job, working your whole life, and then retiring for a few good years. It's programmed into the way everything works. It's programmed into our banking. It's programmed into our education systems. You don't even notice sometimes that you are programmed that way.
I think a lot of my generation don't even look into investing or saving money because even though they don't know why, they subconsciously feel that it's not going to be useful to them.
That you're swimming in the river. The river's got the flow coming against you, and you're just trying to remain where you are, and you're having to fight to swim against the constant flow of costs and bills, and you're working your ass off and you're just staying steady.
In the book, you really articulated well the power of starting early. And like you said, it doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands. It can be $50 a week, $50 a month, but the time can then compound and get you further ahead. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Thomas Brown from Australia joining us, who I fortunately got to meet just as I got to Australia. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. For the people hearing about you for the first time, do you want to tell us a bit about your story and what led you to writing these books that we're going to start discussing throughout the episode?
Hey Finn, thanks for having me. Yeah, I got into personal finance through a personal situation. I got divorced back in the early 20s, which everyone who's been divorced knows is devastating financially. So I started looking for a way that I could rebuild my financial life and wealth. Someone gave me a book, Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape, which I guess most Australians will know. I really like him. I think he's a no bullshit sort of guy. He speaks his mind, and his books gave me the basis to start budgeting properly. You know, he has a very simple budgeting technique where he uses buckets, and he talks about breaking your money up into these buckets. So I started using that. He had a stock and share trading course, which I took. Started looking at wanting to invest in shares and stocks to rebuild wealth. I was lucky enough to meet a lovely lady. I got remarried. We had to buy a house, so there was a lot of pressure. I had young kids still. Through that process, I went and found FIRE, which is an acronym for Financial Independence Retire Early, if anyone knows about that. It's a group of people who focus really solely on finding extra money and investing in such a way that they build up a large amount of capital, and that will help them and give them options in the future by using that wealth to then potentially retire early or change some other aspect of their lives by using that wealth that they built up. I had a mate introduce me to Bitcoin in 2017, which I, of course, dismissed straight away as potentially a scam, potentially something too risky to look at. I wish I had listened. Then along came 2020, 2021, and the financial crash that happened during COVID, which was really a flash crash. So we watched the stock market drop. I thought, here we go, I've got the chance to buy some cheap stocks and shares. But everything I'd read about how we were going to get a recession for years, it just dropped, turned around and went straight back up again. And of course, that led me down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out why we were going to have this major recession, major traumatic event for financial markets all around the world. And the opposite happened, and the stock markets went up, and I just couldn't make head nor tail of it. And I just so happened I was listening to a podcast, FI, or Financial Independence Podcast at the time. The guest was Stefan Livera, who is a noted podcaster, a noted Bitcoiner, an old OG. And he was talking about money printing and so forth. So that's when it really clicked. And I went, hello, there's something to this. I went back to my friend who had introduced me to Bitcoin and said, okay, how do I get hold of this? What's the story? And I've been down the rabbit hole ever since. Of course, started buying Bitcoin in 2021 and then went down solidly for 2 years straight. So I had to earn my stripes. Yeah, it's been an interesting path. I found that like the rest of us, I thought Bitcoin could solve everything. Bitcoin fixes this. And so I went about trying to tell everyone about it, all my friends, all my workmates, family. And of course, then came across the next problem, which was a lot of people weren't interested, no matter how I presented the opportunity of Bitcoin in so many different ways. Only a small percentage of people went along that same path and found out, because it's a difficult sell sometimes to people who I mean, it's an unknown product, or was. It's becoming more and more known as a financial product. But yeah, they just thought it was too risky and too unknown and too uncomfortable to learn a whole bunch of new different tactics to deal with this financial product. So I guess like the rest of us, at the end you run out of people to talk to about it. And that led me to my kids. My kids were growing up, leaving school and getting jobs, going to university, whatever. I wanted to teach them about it. I mean, they'd heard enough about it to know about it. So I wrote my first book. They are Gen Zers, so I guess that's relevant particularly to your podcast and your audience. And I called it Gen Z Real Estate Cheat Code. And in that book, I described the process that I would use and recommend to people to find savings, to find money, invest in Bitcoin over a longer period, build up an amount of wealth so they could buy real estate. That was focused at a problem area, which we all know about in Australia, which is very expensive real estate. It's very difficult for young people to get in on the real estate ladder. So that's why I wrote that book. And that was probably 18 months ago I released that. It taught me a lot about explaining to people about Bitcoin and I guess the other side of it, the FIRE, financial independence, retire early, way that they go about thinking about money. Does that answer your question? Is that enough of a background to where we are now, which has brought me to my new book?
It does indeed, yeah.
Uncommon Wealth for the Working Man.
Yes, it leads perfectly in. And one thing I noticed reading your second book is that it doesn't feel like kind of traditional finance advice, and it's got some philosophy ingrained, and it's more so on reclaiming your life. And in the introduction, you talk about kind of the social contract. So working 40 years, retiring late, go to school, get a job, go to uni, get a job, get a house, and maybe by the end of it, you might be able to retire and live a bit. So why do you think that so many people never question that path, despite that path today clearly not working for the majority of people?
Yeah, that's interesting. That social contract. I think it's conditioning. I think about your brain like a computer. We program it with beliefs and habits. And if you think about what people consume, you'll get a lot of information from social media, from normal media, not so much newspapers anymore, but other areas. And what you'll find is that 40, 50-year social contract of getting a job, working your whole life, and then retiring for a few good years, it's programmed into the way everything works. It's programmed into our banking. It's programmed into our education systems. It's programmed. So you don't even notice sometimes that you are programmed that way. And so that's probably also why most people don't go and look for something else. They just don't think it's possible. Anyway, that's what I want to address with this book. Bitcoiner writing a personal finance book is interesting. But what I found and what worked for, and I guess because I had that very difficult transition in the middle of my life where I had to start again, and I went searching for something new. That's why I was able to change the way that I saw the world. And then from then on, once I was able to see the world differently, then my actions were able to change, and then the outcomes changed, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I often say, we've had the discussion as well, is that people need a level of pain in their life to start seeking change, because otherwise, if you just ram Bitcoin down someone's throat, they'll be like, cool, I don't need it.
Yes.
And they only realize they need it when they do hit that level of pain.
Yeah.
Now,
it's unfortunate, isn't it? Because you would like to think that you could step out of your normal way of life and your programming, and it's just not the way for most people. Most people are comfortable. There's safety in numbers. There's safety in the book. I took an analogy about the village. So you grow up in the village and you want to remain comfortable with everyone around you, and so you just fall into these social norms, and that doesn't allow you to really step outside your normal range of actions to get a different outcome. Look, we've got some pain. I mean, look at house prices, look at inflation and cost of living, look at how happy are people, what's the general happiness index. We've got all these amazing technological advances, yet are people any happier? I don't know. So maybe that's enough pain to get people to look a little bit left to center, different right. So, I'm not talking about left and right politically here. I'm just talking about just looking outside the normal, outside the square, outside the box. And hopefully that's what I present with the book. That first part of the book that you mentioned is really to get people to try and examine their belief system and say, actually, you know what? Maybe there is another way. So just quickly, I wanted to say that the book is, it pretty much mirrors exactly the path that myself and my new wife, my partner now, took. We had to basically start again and examine every single thing that we did and try and optimize for efficiency, our income. We really didn't have a lot to start with. So we had to save for a deposit. We had bought a house. We had to renovate it. We still had kids at school. And then I was really starting to get worried about, because I was in my early 40s then, how retirement was going to look. And that's what led me to FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early, where they focus on being able to use what you've got, use the income that you've got as efficiently as possible to build up the wealth so that they can retire early. And all I was hoping to do was get to my retirement age and have a good enough retirement that I wasn't worried about, money. So, but that then I think there's an amazing synergy here between, or can be happen between FIRE, so using those techniques, and then of course we've got this amazing once in a probably 100-year chance to use an asset like Bitcoin, which has got an amazing return profile, and those two together can really catapult people financially into the future. That's what my book's about, and it's a step-by-step process. I want to walk people through exactly. It's a very, very simple process. It's not difficult, and when I started to think back about this process we put into place, I just sort of broke it down step by step and go, okay, what really happened there? Okay, we looked at that. And the third element to this is that I added some AI flavor. Okay, so I don't know, I know you've used AI, and I know lots of people are starting to use Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever. What I find with AI is it is a great aggregator of information, and it can pull a lot of information from a lot of different places, get it together, break it down into an easily understandable chunks, and that can really save people time when they're applying some of these techniques that I write about in the book. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I loved the AI sections in there, and by AI I don't mean that you wrote the whole thing with AI, and I don't mean there's sections on AI. I mean,
I understand.
You can use your prompts to apply what you're talking about in the books, and I really like that. And just to pull back for a second, I guess all of this happened, the book only happened because you had that pain of the breakup that caused you to the pain.
That's
and
correct.
I think people are getting close. I just don't think they're fully there yet, and perhaps that's by design as well, because I can't remember when I heard it or who I heard it from a few years back, but it's like you're engineered to stay in that 6 to 7 range of comfort and happiness. And if you go slightly below, you'll come slightly up. If you get slightly too high, you'll come back down. And I think what's happening is the pain level or the pain tolerance is getting higher and higher because the life and happiness is going down, the quality, but people still aren't hitting that pain threshold. And I think by design, the gradual decline is meaning that people just aren't hitting the pain point because that floor is getting lower and lower, or higher and higher, I should say.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think we're close.
Frog in the boiling in the pot.
Exactly that. I think, but more and more people are hitting that for sure, and I'm having good conversations, as I know you are as well. The last bit I want to touch on for this section, we'll talk more about other parts of the book in a second, is you mentioned about time and really taking advantage of the younger years. Now, I'm super grateful and lucky that I've started asking these questions. Again, it came from pain. It came from my rugby career evaporating in front of my eyes, or at least the awareness that it wasn't going to happen. So I started looking for other options, but you use the analogy of money, time, and energy changing throughout life. Why do you think people underestimate how valuable the younger years are, and there's still such a emphasis on go out and live in your 20s, experience the world, when actually your 20s, yes, you want that balance, but can really add fuel to the fire to start getting ahead?
There's an old saying, you can't put an old head on young shoulders. I literally blew my first few years of pay packets. So I can't, sort of point to my own personal experience. However, if you think about your life, your working life like a battery, and I use this analogy in the book, you've only got a certain amount of time that you can work. Okay, it can be little bit variable. You might work till you're 80, you might work till you're 60, something like that. What happens is when you're young and you first get your first income, you think it's going to last forever. You just think, I'm going to get paid. And so you're not really thinking too much about the future. And I mean, it's potentially normal. But then and you think about your battery on your phone, right? You've got 100% battery. Yeah, you're taking photos, doing everything with it. You're using the flashlight on it, whatever. You don't really care. When you get down to 50%, you're thinking, maybe I should start to conserve this a little bit. You're down to your last 15% and you're like, man, don't call me. I've put it on energy saving mode. I'll turn it off and turn it back on when I need it if you don't think you've got a charger around the corner. And so that's what tends to happen, right? You tend to find people when they get to their 40s and 50s start asking questions and start thinking, man, I've got to pull my finger out here. Maybe I don't have enough for retirement. I see it at work. I see people, that's when they start asking questions. However, if you can, when you're younger, start to understand that there is a limited time to the amount of time that you have to work, and potentially start to look at some of these techniques, balance, and you've definitely got to go out, explore the world, have fun, right? So when you're young, you should be fearless. You should be traveling and trying new careers and different things. That's fine. But you can also do that, and if you're smart and maybe use some of the techniques in this book and start to build some wealth as well at the same time. What that will do for you as you get older, maybe you're getting to your 30s and you've actually built up some considerable wealth, that'll give you a lot more options, particularly as you start having a family, you want to get real estate, have kids, I don't know, whatever. Settle down, start to become a bit more serious, potentially look at a career that's going to last more than a few years, learn a skill, a trade, I don't know. Let me ask you a question, Finn. You've got a person or a family and they can save $100 every pay. All right. And then that's person A. You've got person B or family B, and they can save $400 per pay. So $100 pays, $400. Which one has a better long-term outlook, would you say?
Whoever's got more time.
Right. So more money, more options. Now, money is your time abstracted, right? So when we talk about money and wealth, what we're talking about is, and I guess this is what you're alluding to earlier, the battery, in the battery analogy. I'll come back to the two families, 100 and the 400, but essentially you're right. You've only got so much time on this earth. You got till 65, 70 before you have to retire and stop working. Money is essentially time, right? If you have enough money, you don't have to work anymore. So you're swapping your time and your energy for money, this token, this value token. We call it Australian dollar, but different everything. We could call it Bitcoin. And then later on, because when you live in this world, you have costs, right? You have constant costs of living, right? You've got to have food and insurance and, I don't know, cars or whatever you want to do, travel. So if you can build up and have enough of these dollars, right, then you can get your time back, particularly later on. So that's where I think you were going with the time and the money analogy, is that what you were trying to get at there with early on in the book where I talk about your life and then getting back time via saving enough money or value?
Yeah, 100%. I think as well that for my generation specifically, it's
yes.
And I know Bitcoiners talk about it a lot, that Bitcoin gives hope, because I think a lot of my generation don't even look into investing or saving money, because even though they don't know why, they subconsciously feel that it's not going to be useful to them. So they just spend that cash, inflate their lifestyle away, inflate the potential savings away through just spending because they have no hope. But I think in the book, you really articulated well the power of starting early. And like you said, it doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands. It can be $50 a week, $50 a month, but the time can then compound and get you further ahead.
Let me ask you a question. What is hope? What do you reckon it is?
Gosh, it's
can I give you my definition?
You can indeed.
Okay, I read this the other day and I wrote it down so I could bring it up with you. It said, hope gives you the quiet belief that your situation isn't permanent and that your daily choices matter and that you can improve your situation. Okay. So this book will give people hope, right? I'm giving you some clear, basic, simple steps where you can maybe claw back some of that time, that money, right, and invest it. And just in that alone, I'm hoping that people can go, okay, like you're saying, these young people going out and spending all their money because there's no hope. They think, I can never get real estate. It's just too expensive, or a future where I don't have to work, or maybe I want to go and, start a new life in another country. It'll never happen because I just can't build up enough money or value, wealth to do that. And so that's what I want to do. I want to bring hope back to the world. And I help people improve their lives. And hope is a stepping stone. Do you know what I mean? If they have hope, then they might go, okay, I'm going to take on those steps. I'm going to change. I'm going to do the thing that's in the book or in my podcasts that I'll do later on, where I encourage and I open up about each step. Okay, look, guys, it's just, hey, open a different bank account, give it a name, give it a goal. Let's have a goal. Let's talk about saving $10 a week. Let's talk about 50. Or if that's where you're at, what about increasing? How can we do it and where you don't have any, change in the your lifestyle, yet you can find a better way to do stuff. Because if you don't have hope, you're probably not even going to try. You're just going to go blow it. I'm not even going to look for a better value when I'm spending money. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I see. If we can give people hope, no, like I said, I think these steps, the fire, the Bitcoin together, we know Bitcoin gives hope if people can look at it. Do you notice my book doesn't have much Bitcoin talk in it? Okay, that comes from my frustration about talking to people about Bitcoin, thinking it's going to fix everything, and then just ignoring because it's a step too far. So my idea is to get the finances right, help them find the money to invest, and then further down the track, when I'm talking about investing, I will present that as an option, and hopefully they will pick that up and run with it. Sorry, mate. When you mentioned hope, I just thought, I have to just dig down into that a little bit. The hopelessness stuff out there, we've got social media, we've got the algorithms that drive this social media stuff it's a lot of negative narratives, envy, fear, greed, laziness, passiveness, because that drives clicks, right? Drives stuff. So we've got to fight against that. We've got to try and use the hope and the positive stuff that we can do, and get people to direct their attention to a more positive outcome. People want it. You can feel it. I'm starting to see more and more conversations about, man, something's really wrong here. This isn't working for humanity. We might have nice flashy stuff, but are they happy? Do you know what I mean? People need a bit of grunt. They need to have a challenge. And what we're finding is these social media algorithms and the YouTube shorts and the reels and all that. It's passive, and underneath something will be niggling away at them. And I think we've got a real opportunity here to grab it. Once they decide to, grab life by the balls and get stuck into something different, man. Why not?
Exactly. I was just about to say, I've got the solution when they're ready for it, but need to get them to want the solution first.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that definition of hope that you found, and it kind of leads me on to wanting to ask about another analogy from the books.
Go for it.
We've just been talking about it. The feeling or the description of what people are feeling right now really is swimming upstream. So in the book, you talk about the analogy of a river, and that links obviously to the feeling of swimming upstream. So do you want to go and talk a bit more about the concept and analogy around the river and how people perhaps could start looking at that and applying it for themselves?
Okay. So when I started writing the book, I thought, how can I describe what's actually happening in people's financial lives? And I know people feel overwhelmed with costs and what it costs to live. So there's a constant stream of bills. So if you can imagine the analogy that you're swimming in the river's got the flow coming against you, and you're just trying to remain where you are, and you're having to fight to swim against the constant flow of costs and bills, and you're working your ass off, and you're just staying steady. Okay, so that's that analogy. Like people trying to get ahead and they can't because the flow of the river just feels like it's speeding up to them, and they're swimming harder and harder. So I say, you can try swimming harder, you can try swimming longer, you just keep getting pushed back. And then I use the analogy, the mental picture of a speedboat coming by, and you just go, hey, jump on this boat. We can get further up the river. We've got we've got an engine. We're floating on top of the river. We don't have that drag on us. And what I'm talking about there is you starting to take control, doing things differently, right? So, and that's what the book's about. The techniques in there are just saying, hey, jump on board this boat, give these techniques a try. Maybe strap a turbocharger onto that engine and let's get up that river as fast as we can. So that's what that analogy is about. The constant fight that people have, which is the flow of the river pushing against them in their monetary lives. Okay. Look, I've got 2 or 3 books left in me. I'm sure people, when they start, I've just started with the simple stuff. When you get further into fire, there's a lot more advanced techniques that you can use. And one day we'll probably talk about them, some of which I used. And this is the whole point. I'm just going to present them. If people want to use them, they can. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling them what to do or what to invest in or how to do it. I'm just going to give my story and why it was so successful to me. I'll break it down. I've already got a bit of feedback where people want to know a little bit more in granular detail how I did it, what I did, what I do. And so I will be doing some supplemental informative podcasts and I guess little booklets or whatever, information sheets.
Action items.
Action items. That's it.
Yeah. Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin.
There
buy
you go.
Bitcoin.
That's it. Hey, if you can help them to jump straight to that, awesome. And that's my ultimate goal is obviously if they use the techniques to find income or find money that they can invest and then they join on to Bitcoin, we know what happens.
Yeah.
I only talk about long-term investing. I'm not talking about short-term stuff. I'm not talking about, speculative investments. It's got to be long-term. We know that.
Yeah. 100%.
And the Bitcoin fits that perfectly, right? 4 to 5 years minimum. Boom.
Yeah.
Look out.
Yeah. It does. 4 to 5 years is far too short. Forever.
Yeah.
Sounds better to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we've not even touched on it, but I mean, we did with the title, the uncommon wealth for the working man. So you're obviously in a career yourself. And like you said, the book is about your story and everything that's worked for you. Now, one of the biggest ideas you talk about in the book is systems over goals and obviously speculation that comes with short-term thinking. So what made you realize that systems are of massive importance? And why do you think that most people fail or struggle financially, even if they've got good intentions and good goals?
Well, you're right. So a system is just merely a set of steps that someone can take that set out probably by someone who has achieved the goal that you're after before. So you're an athlete, you know that, and someone really close to me works with elite athletes, and they often bring young athletes from school into the professional athletic world. And what they do is they give them a system. Okay, they talk to them about recovery, exercise recovery, skills improvement, nutrition, mindset. Okay, and they say, here's what you have to do. This is when you'll turn up here and get that done and then do that and then do that. They know that when they get these people and put them in this system, all right, this program, they will get a much better athlete out at the other end. Okay, that's no different to anything else. If you go and want to become a plumber, you're going to go through an apprenticeship, and that's a system whereby year 1, you do this, year 2, year 3, right, and at the end you come out. It's no different to finances. So systems keep you on the straight and narrow. You are, heading towards your goals. So if you have a system, and that's what I lay out, it's just a simple set of steps that will keep you focused. And when we talk about focus, I've got a great analogy. In the world today, one of the problems is a lack of focus. And that's what I think. I imagined a golden retriever who chases tennis balls, right? So the owner's throwing the tennis ball and is running out. And we've all seen videos of dogs doing that or have a dog that has done that. And then the owner gets a big bucket of balls and throws all the balls in the air at once, right? And the eyes on the golden retriever go wide and they're looking up at all the balls. How many balls do they end up with? 0. Because they're just scattered, right? They can't, go there, then they go there, and then suddenly they're all dropping around. They don't know what to grab and they end up with nothing. That's really what's happening when you're on social media, which is fine. We all do that. But your brain is, it's learning about one thing, it's getting an endorphin hit there and it's doing something else. And then, you don't know where to start, and you have that lack of focus of like, I don't even know where to begin. And that's that's part of the problem is people are taught that, or maybe the algorithms are teaching them that there's something out there, there's a quick hit, there's a way to get ahead, they do whatever. Proof of work, get back to basics. And that's what I do. I really break it down, man. You've read it, right? And when you read it, I know that you said to me, and I've had multiple people, younger, older, said, man, I've got to do this. It's simple. It's not that hard. And take maybe not every step, but take most of them and go, okay, I'm going to implement that. And I reckon there's something in that for me. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I think. I think this system will keep you focused, and it's a proven system because I've done it. I've now had other people implement it and they go, oh man, this really works. So there's nothing to lose. It's free. Just get out there and give it a crack.
Yeah, it's so simple, like you said, to follow, and simple steps to follow, leading to big results just over a long time horizon. And I think that nicely leads us in to start closing out in terms of the practical things people can start taking from this and implementing themselves. So if someone that's listening perhaps is feeling overwhelmed in life but financially right now, where should they start?
Page 1 of my book. Look, go to Substack, download it. Let's use another analogy. Let's say you're in a rowboat and you're on the ocean, okay? And you're rowing away around. And which direction do you head to get to, let's say, Hawaii? Let's say you've got this great dream, you want to go to Hawaii. What direction, I'm going to ask you, what direction do you row in? South, east, west? It depends where you start, right? If you don't know where you are on the map, what's the point of trying to head off in a different direction? So step 1 is actually, as you'll see in the book, is to write out the list of costs that you have. It's just literally get a bit of paper or open a new electronic document and list every single expense that you have, right? What you are going to do is set a baseline. And if you can't do that, if you can't face up to that, then you've got another problem. And that your problem's probably bigger than, you might be heading negative in debt and you probably need a professional counselor. But if you're just day to day, just making ends meet, just write down every single regular bill that you have. Now, when I did that, I've been doing this over the years, but in 2025, I decided to start again, right? I decided, okay, if I'm going to write about this, I better do this. And I'll write about this in my if you become a subscriber to me on Substack, you get the supplement where you look at what my actual budget is and what my income is and the steps and what I do every month and where I find the money. That's what people really want, I've found. So that's there for you. It will be soon. Figure out where you are, write what assets you have, but then write what bills you've got. And you'll find there's 27. You start with your Spotify and you've got your Apple and you've got your, Google Cloud, and then you've got your insurance for the cars, the houses, everything. And then you've got rates and you've got more house insurance. And you've got, school fees, and you got everything list. You'll be surprised, or probably not surprised, that there's probably between 20 and 30 minimum on there. Write them out, figure out what every payday that works out to. If you've got a yearly one, divide it by 26, so you get your fortnightly amount. If it's half yearly, if it's quarterly, divide it by whatever you need to get, and figure out how much every fortnight you need to put away to cover those bills. Okay, so you'll read about it in the book, but essentially open an account, you put that amount in there every fortnight, and you never have to worry about a bill again. The bill comes due, it's in the bank account, because every fortnight you grab the amount that you know that you're going to be due on average and you put it in there. Okay, and that starts to build a habit where you start to understand your starting point. And from there, then you go on to step 2, where you go, okay, let's examine these one by one using the AI script that I set in the book. It's not rocket science. It's not magic. However, it is really helpful, and you start to work through there. And if you read my supplement, which, like I said, I will put into Substack soon, you'll see what I do. I don't do everything all at once. I just pick one thing a week initially, and then every month, try and work on something else and something else and something else. And you'll start to go, okay, I can save a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And what we're going to do is, just like a laser beam is like light that is focused into an intense point to produce an incredible tool which can melt steel when it's laser focused. That's what we're going to do with your little savings from here and there and everywhere, focus them, and then build wealth from there. And it starts to change your outlook. It starts to give you that hope that we talked about. Actually, I'm starting to see a building balance, and you start to see things differently. You're actually programming your brain differently. You're starting to program. There's a part of your brain called the RAS, the reticulated activating system. I talk about it and people switch off, but it's the part of your brain that filters out all the information and only allows you to see certain things. Like you can't take all the information in that your senses provide to your brain at all times. So it's the part of the brain, whereas if you're buying a new car and you say you're going to buy a Kia Carnival or something red one, you'll start to see them around everywhere because your brain is allowing that part of your it's filtering out what you see. So when you start to focus on anything in particular, you will start to see examples of it all around the world. So if you have a positive outlook, you'll start to see positive, the similar thing in the world somewhere, you'll start to see opportunities everywhere. And that's what happens when you start to do this process. It's more than just a mental checklist, like a checklist that you have to run through. You'll actually start to reprogram your brain, and that's really powerful.
Yeah, deprogram what the programmers have invested trillions of dollars into getting into your brain and get it out. I think that's a great way to wrap up on hope.
Yes.
I want to do many more episodes with you. I've loved doing this. I could keep going for another 2 hours, but I want to keep it short, and then we can film another one perhaps in the coming weeks and months, and then hopefully a few more off the back of that too. Now,
love to
close us out, have you got any last messages? And then the last thing to leave us with is, where can we find you? Because I know you're on Substack, so I'll put that in the description below for anyone to subscribe and read your book. And for anyone listening this far, thank you. But Thomas, still, and not for long, because I'll make sure he doesn't, the book is free.
Yes.
And I think it deserves value. So whether I manage to persuade him to put up a tipping structure or put it behind a paywall, but for right now it's free. So anyone that's listening, hit the description and go and give it a read before he gates up access, which I'm not sure he will do, but I might have to get him in a headlock to do something. But where can we find you on socials, on the Substack, and any closing messages?
Yeah, just look, Substack is where I will be focusing my energy initially. Might do something on Instagram and on X, but yeah, I'd start there. And it's a work in progress. So I've just started to publish stuff on there. So yeah, that's where look. Hope, it's powerful. So for anyone who's listening, you're like, I really don't have any money to invest with. Yeah, grab the books, do the steps, see how you go. I'd love to hear about it. Hit me up, leave me a message. Yeah, I'm there for you. I really want to help people with this. I think it's got some legs. So let's go.
You do, and that's why I wanted to get you on, because every time we've met, I can feel that, and I'm super grateful for all the help you've given me since getting to the Gold Coast, and I'm looking forward to doing many more episodes. So for anyone listening, everything is in the description or the show notes below. Thomas, thanks so much for joining. I'll see you this weekend as well at the Bush Bash at Byron Bay, and guys, we'll see you on the next one.